Nog needs to get down to the storeroom and get 5 kegs of Takarian mead. Jake is the winner of this year's Batar Prize for his collected series. And we're treated to one of the best episodes in the history of Star Trek. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Miss Melissa Longo.
Hello, 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 hello.
6 hellos from her.
Oh, hello.
7.
I was going for 7.
It is I get it, because the laughy face. Yeah. It is a Nog episode, which is our favorite episodes. And Melissa was referencing that Aaron Eisenberg, when he used to do emoji reactions of the laughy, cryy face, he would usually do, or always do, 7 of them in a row. Laugh, 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 laugh. Anyway, we are reviewing Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 3, The Visitor. And for my money, one of the best episodes in the history of Star Trek. And I was reminded of that as I watched the episode again. How are you guys doing today?
Man,
Hey,
doing great. This is,
hanging in there. Yeah.
you gotta have a box of Kleenex when you watch this episode.
Allergies?
Every
Allergies,
time. Every time.
This is a tough one to watch for me, but it was really good, but really sad.
Mhm.
And I mean, such a great story. I mean, this story is so amazing. Ryan, who directed this episode?
Oh, sorry. Yes, this was directed by David Livingston. Again, I thought the same thing. I was like, who directed, who wrote this? Written by Michael Taylor, who hadn't written many episodes, just a few, but one of which he wrote the script for In the Pale Moonlight, which is another one of the best Deep Space Nine episodes. He also went on to write a dozen or more, I think maybe 17 episodes of Voyager as well. So he's done pretty well for himself. But this one and then In the Pale Moonlight have to be his best. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. This is such a beautiful story, and I've seen it many times. And it doesn't matter how many times I see it. I watched it last week, and then I watched it last night, and it doesn't matter. I cry every single time. It's just, the story is so touching and so beautiful. It's just, it gets me right here.
Speaking of crying, before we get too deeply into this, everybody do us a favor. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Please hit subscribe. Hit the bell icon for notifications. If you do have a moment, please go over to patreon.com/the7th-rule and say hi to us. Consider joining the team. If you'd like to donate or become a part of this show, please do so. We very much appreciate it. And back to the lesson at hand.
Perfectionist perfectus, so I'm gonna let him understand.
Right. Melissa, next line.
I don't know. I don't know that song.
She's like, don't ask me.
I don't think I know that song at all.
1993, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, please go on, Cirroc.
Tony Todd. He
Amazing.
deserves his credit for this one, because he really knocks this one out the park. I really enjoyed seeing him play the scene that he did with Nog when they were at his house in Louisiana there, and I thought that was like a great moment. Obviously, I wasn't there for that scene, so watching it is really fun to see. It's actually interesting to see people playing opposite version of me that's not me. So. So it's kind of interesting when I look at it. For example, Sisko and Tony Todd as Jake doing the scenes, and I actually was thinking, what are they thinking as they're doing the scene, trying to pretend they're doing it with me, right? So that was another thought that went through my head. But I remember getting this script when it first came out, and you read the scripts to prepare for the next episode shoot, and tears were dropping onto the page as I was reading the script. I think this is the first script that made me cry just by reading it. And
wow.
And each time, yeah. And each time I watch it, it brings back those same emotions almost all over again.
So the first time you're reading the script, do you remember when you first started to get emotional? Like, was it from the very beginning? Was it the end that hit you? Was it kind of throughout?
Yeah, it was throughout. It was the fact that, the love of the father-son, how much they love each other, and also the torment of Jake's perspective, seeing his dad come in and out ever so often. But I felt the opposite torment too, from Sisko's perspective, kind of seeing his son get old in front of him. I think there was a line where he says, "You're older than me," right? And it was like, that was another torment. Like, I wanted to see you have kids and do this, and you didn't do all this with your life. And it felt like, oh man, so you get hurt from both sides, as a child, and now for me as a parent, looking at it from both sides was really painful.
Go ahead, Melissa. You look like you're going to say something.
Oh, no, I was just thinking that, yeah, you do get hurt from both sides. Jake is mourning the loss of his father over and over and over again. It's not once, but multiple times that he loses his father. And then you get it from Sisko, Captain Sisko's side, where he sees his son is hurting and there's nothing he can do about it. He can't help him. And the only way he can try to maybe help him is tell him to move on and live life. Poke your head up once in a while,
Yeah, I really felt it from the perspective of Captain Sisko upon this viewing, where he's watching his son throw his life away. And that, as a parent, no parent wants to see that. I mean, he's thinking like, kid, go live your life. Forget, like, what do you do? Like that's got to be a terrible feeling for a parent to watch their kid throwing their life away. And every time he checks in, that life's getting worse. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, I want grandkids. I want you to be successful. I want you to be happy. I don't want you, crapping on your own life. And poor Jake is not just feeling the loss of his father, but the realization and the guilt that he has when he realizes that he's the reason. Obviously, it's not his fault at all, and there's nothing he did wrong. But a child wouldn't help but carry that guilt with them about if they're the reason their parent is, dead or disappearing or going through whatever it is. He's carrying this guilt around, feeling like it's his fault. But I will tell you the line that got me, that I was like, wow, that's quite a line, was, where was it? It was towards the end, when it was at the end when Captain Sisko is telling Jake, don't do this for me. And Jake says, for you, and for the boy that I was. And that, because he's remembering that 18-year-old kid and the agony that he just went through. And he's like, dude, I'm doing this for that kid. And I think we all kind of get that when we look back at ourselves as kids. It's almost like another life away, he's like, and he's remembering that moment. And he's like, nobody should go through that. And that poor kid did. I'm trying to fix that. It's just a beautifully written script.
And it kind of actually reminds me of The Emissary, when Benjamin has lost his wife and he's dealing with that loss, but he's an adult and he has different skills to help cope with that loss. And he has the prophets too, to help him realize, why do you exist here? Why do you continue to exist here in the pain of the loss? But right. Jake doesn't have anybody to help him in that way. So Jake is existing at his 18-year-old self. The loss and that pain is still there, and he's still in that adolescent, place of loss.
Mm-hmm.
So he exists there, and he didn't move on from there. Although at one point he almost did, but.
Yeah, and the other thing that I thought was amazing were the people that stood up to the plate and looked after Jake when he was going through that. They showed a scene with Quark telling Nog,
Yes.
why don't you guys go to the Hollows? You never mind those 5 cases,
Yeah.
And
he's like, hurry up before I change my mind.
Yeah, but it was good because that means Quark has a heart, and he's and he wants Jake to feel better and have fun. So he's like, you know what? Never mind the work. I'm going to let you guys do that. The other person that stepped up was Dax. They said Dax looked after Jake, and I felt that. But I also felt Nog being a good friend, trying to cheer his buddy up. Like, hey, man, let's do this. Let's do that. And he's like, I feel like it's early. I want to go to bed. It's late. And being sad. But I just felt like Nog was such a good friend in that moment. He was like, I got to do something to cheer my buddy up. So those things actually were making me really emotional, because I was thinking, wow, that's what a extended family does for each other.
Right.
They're there for each other. And I thought that was pretty.
Kira also had her moment as well, where she was maybe a little less of a friend and maybe a little bit more of a guardian, where she seemed to take on the responsibility of watching over Jake and saying, okay, you can stay here, but when trouble comes, you better get your ass on that shuttlecraft, punk. I'm going to kick your butt right onto that shuttlecraft.
Yeah.
And that was her own motherly instincts that were kicking in. So you get to see how like the whole DS9 kind of community is cheering Jake up. And I like the tribute that they had on the promenade, where they had the whole promenade was full of people, and they were giving their tributes to Sisko. It was a nice special moment for that. But yeah, this was one of those things where it's like every single moment. I think my mom was watching me as I was watching this episode.
Oh yeah.
And she's seeing me like grab tissue after tissue. She's like, what are you watching? What are you watching?
You're like, I'm watching me.
It's funny because I was like, yeah, I'm watching Deep Space Nine, and she said, Deep Space Nine, making you cry like that? I was like, yeah, this episode is too much.
Yeah.
You take us back all the way to 1995. Do you have any memories of shooting that? Tell us about like Tony Todd. You said Tony Todd kind of watched you and maybe asked questions. Because I did notice that Tony had a couple of those mannerisms, a couple of Jake mannerisms that we could talk about a little later. But you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, Tony Todd, when he was brought in to play Jake, came and introduced himself to me. Obviously, I knew him from Candyman at that time, because Candyman was fresh on everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, Candyman is playing me, so that was a special moment. But he did take time to follow me around, and he was just like, I just want to hang out and see how you go, and I'll just be over here. It's just minding my own business. But I feel like he really did play the older version of Jake in an exceptional way, and he did extreme justice to this particular episode. Back in '95, I can remember that this would be a Jake heavy episode, and was probably the first Jake centric episode.
Right. Yeah.
So I remember reading, saying, wow, like my name is on every page as I turned the script. So no relaxation time for this one. So So that was the first thing that I thought about, was the challenge that was coming ahead doing the episode. Like, this is going to be challenging. This is a lot of work. But then they ended up breaking that work up, breaking it down, into my parts where I was featured, and then obviously Tony Todd took up the bulk of the responsibility. So that made it that was a big stress reliever for me. I was like, whoa, I don't have to do so much. And I was happy that Tony Todd would do it. The other thing I remember is that they wanted me to play the older version of Jake, and so I went through a process of makeup, and they put the prosthetics and aged me as best they could, and they decided that I didn't look old enough and I couldn't pull off old Jake. That's when they decided to cast Tony Todd.
Yeah, it did seem like you were still 2 years away from being able to put makeup on and act like an old person. You still had that young man body and young man mannerisms. It's almost impossible for an 18-year-old, no matter how much makeup you put on them, to pull off an old person. Once you're 20, sure, maybe you could do it. But yeah, do you remember what that process was like? Was it like pretty quickly, or did it take a while for them to come to that decision?
I just remember being in the makeup chair, because I was hardly ever in the makeup chair more than 5 minutes. So this was like, all right, sit down. We're going to put a whole, prosthetics on you and age your face. And there's all types of techniques that they use to do it. One in particular was this kind of liquid that, when applied to your skin, basically wrinkles your skin. And so they used a little bit of that, and they blended the rest. But I then went from that makeup procedure to the other side of the lot, to where Rick Berman and the big boys were. And I walked in the door like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. So it was it was kind of quick, and like I said, I'm actually glad that worked out that way, because it gave a chance for Tony Todd to do real legitimate justice to this role. And just what a great story. And one of the things I really like about this story is how it opens. The episode opens at the end, essentially, and he's kind of narrating and doing the storytelling about it. And I like that. I like that they started from the end and moved backwards. Just a little bit different. And this is one of those episodes. I mean, it could have been a Twilight Zone episode. It could have been, Alfred Hitchcock. This is across the board what sci-fi is about.
Exactly. I thought the same thing, that this is a script that could be put anywhere, because it's just a good story. It's a good story through and through. And Deep Space Nine is just where the story was housed. It could be reskinned as a Battlestar Galactica episode, or like you said, a Twilight Zone or Black Mirror. It could be any of those things.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. No, I may notice that too. I was like, oh, I love this opening, and the way they're setting this tone of the episode, it was great. The rain falling, and you're at a house, and you pass the picture of Jake and his father, and nothing is, hitting you over the head. It's all these little subtle details that are filling in the story as you watch it, and it's so nice and lovely. I loved the way it opened. Right.
And speaking of the opening, the funny thing is, in that first minute, I was just taking notes. I like to kind of take notes on the opening scene, because Deep Space Nine is always really interesting in how they open up an episode, with whatever they're doing in the slice of life, but this was a little different. And so I take the notes, and when I was done taking the notes, I realized, I was like, this almost looks just like what the script would have said, because it just says, it says rainy day, picture of Jake and Sisko, a hand holds a baseball, pulls out a hypospray to his neck, visitor at the door, she's hurt. And I was like, well, that's kind of like, that's almost like if you read that in the script, you'd be like, ooh, I'm listening. This sounds interesting. And that's how we were as a viewer. You see that opening 30 seconds and you get sucked in right away. And it's kind of like gather around, everybody. We're about to have Deep Space Nine story time hour. You know, that's what it felt like.
Yes. Wonderful story time hour.
Yeah, I wrote down Teardrop Tony because Tony Todd in that opening scene, he was dropping tears. He was dropping those tears. And he said, you came here on this day of all days. And
Right.
she's like, well, what? She's like, what happened today is like the worst thing that can happen to a kid, you know? My father died.
Exactly.
And that's when his tears start rolling off his face. I said, wow, Teardrop Tony, he's opening the game with a home run hit.
I thought you were going to say you're describing his free throw shooting, but whatever. Home run is fine too, you know.
But yeah, it's, you know, and then you get Sisko saying it's life, Jake. You can't miss it. You know, if you don't
love that quote.
You can miss it if you don't open your eyes.
Yeah.
I thought
that almost sounds like a Ferris Bueller line. What was the line that he says? You know, if you don't get out and, you know, enjoy it every once in a while or something. I think he was in the shower when he said it.
Oh, yeah, I wrote it down. Yeah, you want to poke your head up every once in a while and take a look around, see what's going on.
Oh,
it's life, Jake. You can miss it if you don't open your eyes.
Yeah, well, the line that Jake said to Melanie
is the same line that his father said to him.
Exactly. He says, while you're studying my stories, poke your head up once in a while. See what's going on. It's life, Melanie. And that, yeah, it's a beautiful little
so
return
great.
of favor. By the way, a couple things to look forward to. We're about to take our break. We have a very important actress that played Melanie. So that's something we'll talk about right on the other side. Also, there was another line I really wanted to cover. That was another one of my favorites. We'll talk about that on the other side as well. Lots to hang on to there. So what we'll do is we'll take our quick break and we'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
With Melissa Longo.
Hello.
With Ryan T. Husk. And we're going to do the trivioids super quick, but before we do that, let's mention our good buddy Bill Erickson is doing something great for Movember, so we will include the link in the description box below. Please check it out. He's doing this for men's health, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and mental health and suicide prevention. It is Movember. He is going to be growing out his mustache, and we need you to donate to that to help the dudes out, help the bros out. Every once in a while, we can have a month where we go, hey, bro, what's up, bro? You know, so we'll include that in the description box. Please check it out. Please support. We love Bill Erickson, and we love this, and we love bros. So real quick, what were you going to say? Sorry, Sarah.
No, Bill Erickson, Bill E. the Kid.
That's the one. We love that one. Thanks, bro. So very quickly, here are the trivioids of the day. Jake and Captain Sisko go to the Gavin Quadrant to watch the wormhole undergo a subspace inversion. Boring. That's why I didn't use that one. Jake loses his favorite pen and couldn't write anything without it. That was the joke he made to the lady Melanie.
Yeah.
Nog needs to get down to the storeroom and get 5 kegs of Carrion mead. Jake and Nog go ion surfing, but Jake needs to tell Nog to keep clear of the whip curls. I don't know if you remember that line. Whip curls was the correct answer. And Jake is the winner of this year's Baytar Prize for his collected stories. Also, we had 2 NAMs today. Did you notice the NAMs?
No, who were the NAMs?
Well, Jennifer Sisko.
I know Morn was one of them NAMs.
Well, no, he was in there though. We saw him.
Did we see Morn?
Yeah, he was at the memorial.
Grandpa.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're right. Joe Sisko. I missed that one. Yeah, Joseph Sisko. Jennifer Sisko, they mentioned her, not by name, but he said mom. And Rom. Rom was also mentioned, but he was not in it. Yeah. I better take down Joseph Sisko because I missed that one.
Yeah.
Discuss amongst yourselves.
Yeah, there were a few moments that I really liked. There was the moment where Jake and Kira were having a conversation about leaving, and Jake says something like, "I'm not going anywhere," and he goes on to say, "This is my home," and that was a big statement for Jake because he was always on the move, and that was one of the things that he didn't have a home. He would move from starbase to starbase,
Right.
as a lot of kids who are military in a military family, they'll find themselves moving a lot, and that was one of the things that Jake experienced growing up, was doing a lot of moving, and now for him to identify Deep Space Nine as his home, I think that was a really big step for his kind of perspective. Growing up, having moved around a lot, not having too many stable friends, and now finally finding the friends and the family that he really loves to be around, and he calls that his home. That was one aspect that I thought was great. And then the thing that started just another tear-jerk session for me was when he said, "Everywhere I look, I see a part of him." And that resonated with me so much because, when we lose somebody that we love, everything reminds you of them that reminds you of them. And so I thought that was really a special moment.
Yeah, there was a really good line there, is the other really good line. I mean, there were so many great ones, but, the one that I really liked was when, the one I mentioned earlier, and where, I don't remember, I want to get it word for word. Well, I don't see it, but the line was when Jake is talking about how, after the memorial, and he says after 2 or 3 months, everything basically starts going back to normal for everybody else, that is. And I'm like, whoever wrote this gets it, like at first everybody's together, everybody's with you, we're all mourning it together, and 2 or 3 months later, life kind of goes on and everything goes back to normal for everybody else, and Jake, and in this case, Jake is like, it never gets back to normal for me. It does for everybody else, but not for me, and I was like, that's a beautiful line.
Learning what the new normal is for somebody who's lost someone that close. That's a struggle.
Yeah. And the other thing was that, moved me was when Jake started showing his dad his books and saying, "Look, Dad, look." I mean, when Dad pops back up and he's showing him the books, and Sisko says, "I'm proud of what you've accomplished." And that was just another great moment for me. It just, as a father looking at his son grown up and doing something, and, he mentioned he was married, your wife, Karina, that was in this episode, who I think you gave us a little tease, Ryan. You said this Karina was played by a famous actress.
Not the wife. I don't know who played her. I mean, I could check real quick. But it was the lady that played the visitor, the lady that played the
Melanie.
Melanie, who came to visit Jake Sisko, is Rachel Robinson. And Rachel Robinson is the daughter of another actor on Deep Space Nine whose last name is Robinson.
Really?
Yeah, that's Andy Robinson's daughter. Special thanks to Dr. Anne-Marie Segal for telling me that little tidbit, or we would have just glazed right over it. But that is Andy Robinson's daughter. That's Garrick's daughter.
Wow.
That's so cool.
And I really liked her in this episode. She sold me as the lost stray kitten that's looking for shelter. That actually wants to meet her mentor. I thought it was just really I like the entree into the story, because she is the entree into the story. She is the one that's like tell me more, tell me more.
Tell me more, tell me more.
Well, she's the visitor, but so is Sisko. He visits every time he gets snapped back.
Right, and as Star Trek does, their titles almost always are a double entendre, which is what we love about them so much. They always have such a great, way of choosing titles that can reference 2 or sometimes even 3 different plot points.
There were some really wonderful moments from Avery too, and there were 2 that really stood out. Well, probably more, but the 2 that really stood out was both were towards the end. Was when he's looking at Jake while he's sleeping and he's old, and he's just taking in his face, and it was so beautiful just to watch him absorb his son's old face. Sisko's still the same age, but Jake is this old man now, and it was such a beautiful moment. And then at the very end, when he dodges the beam, and they're on the Jake and Sisko are on the floor together, and he's like, Dad, and Jake's like, Dad, are you all right? And he's like, I am now. And then he holds Jake closer on the verge of tears and says, I am now. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you can feel the love he has for his son. It's so strong. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Good job, Avery.
Yeah. I made note of the exact same scene. Just as a parent, once again, we've all had the moments where we're looking at our sleeping child. And like, there's a moment we're just watching somebody sleep. And it's like you're observing their fates. You're just thinking about them and wishing what they're going to be in life and all this stuff. And I felt that same kind of curiosity when Sisko was looking at Jake. It was like, just like, wow, this is who he became. And, this is who he is now. And I'm here to see it. And I haven't changed. So I felt like there was so much in that. But also another thing that really got me is when Sisko says, promise me you'll do that. When he says, let go, Jake, you still have time to make a better life for yourself.
Oh yeah.
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 And he says, promise me you'll do that. Promise me. And man, that was another moment where it's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah. That's
deep for me. Yeah. Because that's what you want for your kid. You still have time to make a better life. If you turn things around now and get back on the right track, now promise me you'll do that. Promise me you won't let go. But then the other thing that was, I thought this was about Sisko dying for Jake. But in the end, it becomes Jake dying in front of Sisko, which was like the whole full circle of it, because now Jake says we have to be together when I die. Yeah. So now Sisko has to watch his son die. Yeah. So I'm like, wow, it's not just the one way that we saw it from the beginning.
Right.
It's also from Sisko's perspective, having to see his kid die right in front of his face.
And you know what, when I was watching this, Cirroc, I was thinking like, this may have been the moment where the writers decided to put a big responsibility on your shoulders as an actor, more so than any other previous episode. I feel like this was them just kind of putting the weight of the episode on your shoulders and say, okay, you're ready, kid. Did you feel that way when, or was there a previous episode? I can't think of any episode before this one where they really were like, okay, this is it's not just a Jake-centric episode, but it was a very powerful episode, maybe the most powerful episode so far in this series. Do you remember like the director kind of, talking with you about this or helping you out, or Avery giving you any, helpful hints on it? Or did you just feel like you're ready?
No, I felt I was ready, but I can say this, though. Avery's always been an advocate on my behalf, period, full stop. That's just who he's been. And I believe that during the time that we were doing the show, Avery was adamant that they gave me more work to do, that I wasn't being challenged enough. And that was something that he was constantly lobbying for. Avery knew who I am as a person outside of the Paramount Studios slot. So he also knew what I was capable of. And he felt like a lot of the writing wasn't challenging enough for me. And it was just about, me walking around in a really tight outfit that looks like a bus cover. And he wanted it to be about more. And he wanted it to be about more. And he was constantly lobbying for that. And I believe that this is the result of Avery constantly saying, you need to give this guy more to do. And so they began, and this time, to start giving me more to do. I also noticed that in this episode, I start looking like a more grown adult version of what Jake would eventually become. You can see that I'm leaving kind of, puberty behind and starting to become a young man. So I felt like that's visually palpable just by watching this, who I've grown into at this point.
Yeah. Well, and you definitely stepped up to the plate. Like when they have Sisko and sickbay and you're by his side, not wanting him to go. And gosh, that was powerful too. Just the moment between you and Sisko, it was wonderful. And it wasn't like a child, how a lot of children approach emotional scenes. There was so much honesty in that moment. So yeah, kudos to you too.
And Avery has, gave me a lot of, always gave me directions and just little things I could do to be better. And in this particular episode, in that sickbay scene that you're talking about, when I'm leaning in to, kind of be close to him and give him a hug, he grabs my face. And I've said this before, but he grabs my face. And as he's grabbing my face, he's actually moving it towards the camera a little bit.
Oh.
And he would do things like that it basically say, move your head this way, and it'll open your face up to the camera more. Because, a lot of things could get buried away if you're not giving the camera your full face. And that's just Avery on the fly, not saying anything at the time, not telling me in advance, but when we're rolling, when the scene's being, done, as I'm leaning in, he would just grab my face, and I can feel him turning my head, right? So I'm turning to the direction he wants it to be. But it's so, that's just how masterful he is. He's so present, so aware.
He's directing the scene out there, man.
He's directing the scene while he's in the scene.
Well, yeah, but it's so present, and it works. It worked because, he's holding his son close to him too. And the kiss on the cheek was great too. You don't see that a lot, fathers kissing their sons. And it wasn't creepy or anything like that. It was a tender moment. But he's still, that's so interesting that he was, he's got that duality going on. He's absolutely in it as Sisko, but he's in it as, as Ryan said, the director as well.
And one thing we didn't get to talk about much, but I do want to make sure we talk about it, is Aaron Eisenberg was really great in this episode. Because he'll get to see him as the concerned friend early on, which I thought he was great at. He says, "Oh, great, Peddington, we could be on Earth together," or something.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, oh, wow, that's a cool thing, what a friend would say. But then you get to see his own growth in this episode.
an entire character arc for him.
Right.
But just the overview, just the broad brushes, the broad strokes, but definitely, yeah. Yeah, I really wanted to bring this
Captain
up too.
Nog. Yeah, Captain Nog. So yes.
Yeah.
Not just Captain Nog, we also saw him as Commander Nog, which I had forgotten when he joins, and the wife, Karina, says, "Oh, I see you've got another pip on your shoulder, on your neck, young man," or whatever it was. And I was like, "Oh, I forgot we got to see him as Commander Nog too."
Nog.
We just got the broad strokes of his career, and he makes a little joke about getting the Defiant out of the mothballs. We also get to see Dax and Bashir. Older, and I put in my notes there, getting the band back together, dude. No O'Brien. Sadly, I would have expected to see O'Brien in there, but he wasn't there. Still, that was, this is such a good episode that we could talk about it for hours, but that was another huge aspect of this was, we not only find out about Nog, we find out about his career. We're also getting a window into the future of the Alpha Quadrant, because we're seeing their uniforms. We're seeing what's going on with the Klingons and the Gamma Quadrant and all this stuff. There's a lot of really good stuff there.
Mm-hmm. And I love that we also see how Nog matures throughout the episode, how you really get that he's still this young adolescent guy ready to go off and start his life, and then you see the midway of that and then him as an older man, and he did it so wonderfully, because I believed every stage of his life, and I was just like, gosh, Aaron, good job. Oh, and there was one moment he laughed and I was like, that's such a great laugh.
That laugh. You know what he did? I noticed one thing he did in the later scenes is he lowered his voice a bit.
Mm-hmm.
He made it a little lower, and he spoke a little bit more like this, like, now I'm a captain, and I'm sure these were all like deliberate thoughts. I don't know if, Melissa, he ever told you anything about shooting this episode.
Yeah, he did. He actually mentioned slowing his movements down, and you can see that, and talking more deliberately than when he did as the younger Nog. So he did think about those things while this episode occurred. And I noticed there was a different way he carried himself too as he got older. So there's definitely a difference in physicality as well. So good job, Aaron.
I agree, and I thought that was the remarkable thing about his performance in this episode, was because in the beginning when you see him at Quark's bar, he's kind of back to like young Nog, picking up dishes and taking them to the kitchen, and then he goes in, and then he progresses into, hey, you'll make captain by the time you're 40, and then we see Captain Nog on the Defiant. And there was an air about him that really resonated, a captain kind of persona, this leadership in him. Yeah. And I think there was a moment when he was telling somebody, I have to go now, I'll be right back, or something. But the way he was giving that kind of information, it just sounded like a captain to me. And so I said, wow, this guy is really good, because he's taken what he's seen, elements of what he's seen as a captain, and now incorporated it into his own interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's also cool to know that in Star Trek lore, Jake and Nog remain friends forever.
It's so awesome.
It's true.
What a great friendship.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful to have friends and see friendships that last from youth to old age. Those friendships are rare, but gosh, they're wonderful.
And the best, I thought, one of the great lines that kind of addressed how long their friendship was going was when Jake's wife says, I thought you were going to ask me to chew your food for you.
Oh, yeah.
So like it brings up the fact that they've had jokes about this. They've had
Sure.
late night
Yeah.
conversation. And look back on the days when you used to do that. And so that was like the inside joke of the long-term friendship they had. And he even said, "Wow, you got a swamp full of slugs outside."
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing with redfish?
Fish?
Redfish. Yeah, perfectly good slugs outside.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
I just like the interaction between them, and like you said, the existence of this kind of long-term eternal friendship that they have. They've got each other's back, and even Nog deciding to lead the Defiant back to find Sisko when the Defiant was even kind of old and out of commission at this point, right?
Yeah. But what a good friend to do that for Jake after all these years, after this lifetime.
Right.
And he's like, sure, I'll do that for you. Gosh. And that's what's so great about Deep Space Nine in general, or all of the relationships that we see blossom on this show and nurtured and explored. I love it.
Yeah.
Love that.
I do too.
It's we only have a couple minutes left here. We are at the point of the show now where we start talking about Ryan's nitpick of the day, but you know what? I couldn't find one. So I don't know if that's a failure on my part or a success on Deep Space Nine's part, probably on there. But I'm sure I could find something, but I was like, it's pretty much, I mean, to be honest, I'm usually pretty tough on how I rate things, but this is a 10 as far as the script. This is that I find no problems, no issues. This is a perfect 10 as far as the script, and the acting and directing, pulled through for it. Like, it was a tough script I mean, it's a perfect script, and the acting and directing executed it beautifully. It's a perfect episode. Can't touch it. MC Hammer.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, all these years later, you know what's going to happen. I know what it's about. I've read the script. It's been 25 years. But yet still, I'm dripping tears watching this episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I can't stop. I can't make myself not feel these emotions. Because I do feel these emotions. You feel the loss. You feel the emptiness. You feel the regret. You feel, somebody feeling helpless that they can't do anything about something. You feel all of those emotions, and then you reflect on your own life and the people that you love, and what it means to have them in your life or lose them. So I mean, it's inescapable to, if you have any feelings at all, then they will be activated by watching this episode. If you watch this episode and you feel nothing, then you probably a vampire or something, a zombie.
Seek help.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, same. And I found watching it again now, it was particularly poignant. So, and I'm not going to go into why, because I'll start crying. So, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, we're just about out of time then. What a pleasure and a delight it was to review this episode. This is one of those episodes that make us remember why we like and respect Star Trek so much, because this is a quality show. You don't have to like Star Trek. You don't have to like sci-fi to say, wow, this is a really good episode. This is beautifully written. You know, as we were discussing before, this is a script that could be dropped into any world or any franchise or any genre, and it would be good. And it was. And Cirroc, great job doing it. I'm really happy for you that you got this. I'm proud of you that 18-year-old Cirroc was able to pull this off. Really happy that Aaron and his storyline was so well created and performed as well. It was a real pleasure watching and reviewing this episode.
Yeah, and the only thing I didn't remember that Worf was in this episode, and I thought it was kind of cute, the lines that he said, "You should be on one of those ships." It wouldn't be prudent to say.
Right.
I thought that was another little opening into just like another way that I thought Worf was a part of DS9, all really there. So
yeah,
but yeah.
It was a great little nugget of his character. I think I don't know. I like Worf a lot. So
now, before we go, Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb rating.
Well, I'm gonna have to give this one a 9.9. That's my guess.
That's what you. Guess. But there are a lot of people in the world, and some
of them,
that's
why I didn't say 10.
Yeah, and some of them might be like, I like Star Trek for spaceship battles. This one was boring. It got an overall 9.2, which I still think is either the best or tied for the best highest score we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Fantastic, amazing, great. Way of the Warrior was a 9.0 and 9.1, I believe, and this one's 9.2. So that's 3 9s in a row. They're starting Deep Space Nine on fire.
Yeah, they're on fire this season 4.
Fuego. Yeah. So before we go, we do want to give a very special thanks to Carmen Shamwell, PJ Thomas, TJ Jackson-Bey, Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Dennis Koch, Homer Frizzell, Eve England, Dr. Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, Robert Weissburg, Dr. Sue V. Gruner, and Rex A. Wood. I was going to say doctor. I mean, maybe he's a doctor too, and we don't know.
Dr. Rex.
But thank you all very much for them. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. Please stick around for the free-for-all if you would. I think a really good question would be to ask, besides Jake and Nog, which characters do you think would make the best Friends Forever kind of storyline? Like whether it's Geordi and Data, Friends Forever, or Tom and Harry, BFFs, or Kirk and Spock, something like that could be fun. Okay. Or Spot and Porthos. Anyway, stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on the other side on the Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
We are joined by Melissa Longo, Sue Gruner, Homer Frizzell, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Titus Mohler out in Virginia, in case you were wondering, Katie Carr in Indiana, the heartland of America, Dr. Marie Segal, and Commander John Tufarella. We've got a few fun questions, but first, let's talk about what Titus Mohler has in store for us.
Yeah, no, I was just, since this is a big Jake episode, and I was thinking about other instances in which actors are in a position of sharing a role with somebody because a different part of their life is being shown, different age. I remember hearing a story with Dominic Monaghan on Lost, where his Charlie character was being played by a little boy. And I remember him giving some interview talking about how he was trying to coach the kid. The kid was a little precocious, but he's trying to say, no, Charlie doesn't say stuff like that. So change your accent a little bit. And of course, you're in the opposite situation here, Cirroc, where somebody's playing an older version of Jake. Did you have any interactions with Tony Todd in terms of just kind of giving him insights into the character? And then also as well, how did you feel about his performance overall as your character?
Nice.
Yeah, so I did have interactions with Tony Todd. I didn't give him any directions. I didn't say this is how Jake talks or what he would say or would not say. But he did introduce himself. And he said, I'll be playing you, and I do want to watch you kind of do your thing. So I'm going to be in the background hovering as you do your thing. I'll be just kind of watching your mannerisms. So Tony Todd did that. He went through the process of kind of observing me from a distance, and trying to pick up mannerisms and things of that nature. But when I watch his performance, I thought he did a fantastic job. I mean, you really can't play somebody else, but he did as good a job as you can do playing somebody else. And I think it just made it that much better, because I don't think I would have been able to pull off this episode, and it wouldn't have been as great as it was without Tony Todd.
Cool. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
When you were watching the episode, I think for the first time, and you saw Tony Todd's performance, and you saw what he did, as in mannerisms or like different ways that he held his body, etc., were you like, wait, is that something I do? And then you're like, oh, yes, I actually do that. And he got that, because I noticed some things that he did, and I was like, that's not, that could be, I think that's Jake. So I'm just wondering if you saw that, or how that was.
Yeah, I did see it. And I saw it the most, not when he was with other characters, but when he was with Sisko. That's when I felt like, I was like, oh, wow, this guy really captured the Jake moments, because he did play the son. You know, Tony Todd, the actor, is basically Avery's age, give or take a couple of years. So they're the same age. But when he plays Jake, he plays the kid. And you can see the dynamic of him being more like the kid in the father-son relationship with Sisko. So I thought he pulled that off as well as you can pull off something, you know, being an adult who's pretty much the same age as the person you're acting opposite against. And there were looks, I can't even really describe it to the dialogue, but I can describe it down to the looks. There were looks that really convinced me that he was really good at what he was doing, because there were moments when he would look up at Sisko, and it felt like he was, you know, really Jake. So I was convinced watching it. There wasn't a moment where I said, "Ah, man, this guy, I wish they got a better actor to do this," or this guy didn't pull it off. No, there was none of that. Tony Todd took it to the next level. He opened the scene off. I called him Teardrop Tony, because he opened the episode with the teardrops when he starts to describe, you know, you just happen to come here on this day, the day that my dad, you know, the worst thing that could happen to any kid when their father dies. So he started off hitting really hard, but the points in the episode that I thought he was the most convincing as Jake is when he was playing opposite Sisko.
Yeah, he did great.
Yeah, and the thing that I actually crossed my mind was Sisko's having to look at the older version Jake, who's not Jake, and still pull that off. So I felt like Sisko also did a phenomenal job of not treating Tony Todd as if it was somebody else, but as if it was his own, you know, as if it was me grown up. So I thought that Sisko also continued that continuity as well.
John, did you say you had something too?
Oh, I do.
Nope.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys discussed it, that this was up for an Emmy for Best Makeup, and they said that the reason they got Tony Todd was actually their makeup wouldn't have looked good on Cirroc. So I was wondering if they actually put it on you, and if you have any pictures if they did.
I don't have any pictures.
He's lying. We got to see him earlier. They're pretty embarrassing.
Oh yeah, no. But they did put the makeup on me though, and that was actually fun, because they put this stuff on your face that makes you get all wrinkled up. It wrinkles your skin, and then they add the prosthetics wherever they thought was necessary. But I was way too young. They walked me into the producer's office, and I met with Rick and Ira, and they basically said, no, that's not going to work. He still looks like a kid. And I think that meeting lasted about 30 seconds. So that was a foregone conclusion that they were going to get somebody else to play Jake. But Tony Todd also is a big guy.
Mhm.
I think he's bigger than I am now, fully grown. I think he's like 6'6", and just like a huge guy. So that was the other thing that I was thinking of when I saw Tony Todd, was like, wow, they expect me to get this big.
How many more inches am I going to grow at 18?
Exactly. So that was another aspect of it. But obviously, I mean, we all know Tony Todd from Candyman, and I'm no different. I was a little bit scared and intimidated by him because of Candyman. So when I first met him, I was like, all right, let me not upset this guy. If he wants to stand in the corner and watch me, that's what Candyman wants to do.
Oh, you said it 3 times.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, maybe he'll pop up in one of these boxes here.
Right.
But yeah. So I think Tony Todd. This was just a great episode. I mean, it's the acting, it's the writing, it's the directing. I mean, it was just a culmination of so many different elements that just made it play really well for me. And all the guest stars hit it out of the park too, including Andy Robinson's daughter.
Yeah. Good knowledge, Anne Marie. Go ahead,
Yes.
I guess this is the closest I'll get to ask Jake Sisko. Of course, you are reasserted there at the ending in the final scene with Avery, which is very appropriate, of course. And I feel like a lot has been imputed to your character. We find out what's inside this young man that you haven't had the chance to live out yet if something were to happen to your father. I was curious if the director gave you any kind of special direction in that. I know Jake's role is mostly to be oblivious to what had happened. But I don't know if you had the script fresh in mind and if you even remembered maybe what was going through your head in that scene where where Sisko's very emotional and you're now just being essentially reunited with him after many, many years, at least in his experience.
Yeah, I don't remember any particular notes in that moment. We did talk about that David Livingston was the director of this episode. David Livingston was a guy who would direct a lot of episodes. I was friends with his son, who would also come by the set and hang out with us. So that was one of the other few people that was my age around that time. So I knew David Livingston really well, and we actually had a good working relationship. But watching that scene, I did kind of recall the fact that, I was blown away by how emotional Avery was in that last scene when his voice starts to crack as he's, talking about, being happy to be reunited. Like, I still got you here. So yeah, I thought he did it. I thought that was amazing. Most of my direction though came from Avery. So if anybody gave me direction, Avery would sometimes be standing right there when I'm getting direction, and then he would say, "Yeah, don't listen to what he just said. Just do it the way you want it."
That's great.
So that was the direction most of the time Avery would give me. Don't listen to what he says. Do it the way you want to do it. Almost all the time, that was what he said. So, and then he would say, "Watch what happens." And
Nice.
Sure enough, 9 times out of 10, I would do it exactly how I would want to do it, with no change, and the director would come up and say, yes. Yes.
Just like perfect. Yeah, way to listen to my advice.
Right. And so Avery would say, see, I told you. I mean, they just want to take credit for what you're doing, so that it looks like they're the ones that made the adjustments. So usually that was the case. So I only really listened to Avery when it came to acting directions. And Avery's favorite thing to say on this, when we were filming, was no acting on the set. He would announce that all the time. No acting on the set.
Nice.
And you would think that you want people acting, but if you're acting, then it's a problem.
Right.
Then you're not doing it right. If I can see that you're acting, it's a problem.
Exactly.
It shouldn't look like you're acting. And so that would be one of the things he would always say was no acting on the set.
Awesome.
Nice.
I want to know if he really body slammed you. In the
Oh.
Probably. He was really good at tough love. He would do things sometimes. Yeah, he was really good at tough love. Every once in a while, be quiet, and everybody's just sitting around, and he would just take a nice little shot to my shoulder or a shot to my chest, just a love jab, but. Everybody else was like, "You're hurting the boy. You're hurting him," and he's like, "No, he's fine. He's fine. This guy, he can take. I'm not hurting him." So we did a lot of that, but I'm pretty sure he did probably tackle me down to the floor. And I'd love to see the outtakes on that episode. So we'll have to ask Zapone for that.
Right.
Yeah, they need a blooper reel or something. How come they don't for Deep Space Nine? That would be
they went into the archives for the documentary, and they did find a couple of outtakes for the documentary that they used. But I would love to know where those archives are, and if we could get more of those kinds of outtakes and things. People like myself would love to see them.
I used to love the original series blooper reels. I loved them. They were hilarious. I think it's the only one. Maybe the Next Generation has some too.
Next Generation has. Seems like they have the most. They were like
laughing
Avery
a
said, no
lot.
acting on the set. Jonathan Frakes would say no seriousness on the set in Next Generation.
Yeah, and Deep Space Nine was the opposite, right?
Yeah.
I was a
pretty
serious set.
Yeah, I remember Michael Bourne describing the tone shift, because he said it was there wasn't as much tomfoolery and stuff on the DS9 set.
No, there wasn't much tomfoolery. No, Voyager had Brent Spiner and Marina Sirtis. I mean, they're the X factors that'll change the dynamic to more humorous. And then obviously Patrick Stewart and everybody sets the tone. But no, I think it was more serious. It was more, we have work to do on DS9. And, with Avery, he doesn't play games. He's not a game player. He's not a joker.
I feel bad for anybody that tried to prank him. It doesn't seem like he would take it very well.
No, and he's just not a jokester. He's just. There was a time when William Shatner was trying to start on Avery's case about something, and I think Avery sometimes wears cowboy boots. He likes wearing cowboy boots, and I think Shatner said something about like, look at this guy wearing his cowboy boots, and he was about to start on Avery. And Avery shut it down right then and there. Like, no, don't start with me. No. Find somebody else. I'm not the one.
Go talk to Aaron. He'll play with you.
I'm not going to Jones with you. I'm not going to go back and forth. And we're not going to sit here and talk and dissect what I'm doing. So you're going to start with somebody else. Find somebody else and try that with them. So that was Avery. He didn't really play game. He wasn't a game player.
Well, and then when you have episodes like this one, there's not really room for game playing. I mean,
this is a serious episode. And for Avery, I mean, this is what it's all about for him is being a parent and being a father. So this episode encapsulates what he's all about, what he's doing this show for, because it's that important to him to show this kind of positive imagery of Black families and a Black single father raising his child. That was the most important thing to him coming into it and going out of it. And I don't think that's changed.
Well, guys, seems like unless you guys have any other questions or thoughts on this episode.
I love this set, the living room of that house. the details, the
So
books,
nice.
the things in the background,
Yeah.
the
Picture.
darkness to it, but yet it was kind of very
It was
homey.
very nice.
Mhm.
I noticed the couch and the angle, the camera angle and everything. I thought the whole thing. I just watched it. I just finished watching it before I came on. And I was crying. Every time I watch that
Yep.
episode, I cry.
So
And I
good.
think it should have won an award, not for makeup, but for acting.
For writing too.
Oh,
My
makeup.
God.
Writing
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Very
Acting.
good.
Writing.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. It's funny because we know what's going to happen. I've seen it before. I know what's going to happen in the episode, and yet I still can't help myself from getting emotionally kind of wrecked from watching.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wrecked.
There
Yeah.
are two scenes that always get me. The first one is when Jake is in sick bay, after he found him the second time, and like he just is speechless, and he just hugs his dad before he disappears.
And the other one is cats in sweaters, right?
Yes, it is. Cats in sweaters. But not only that, the scene with Tony Todd in the house, like when his wife is there and he finds him behind the couch, and when Sisko kind of gives her the kind of eye, yeah, go ahead, but because he's so emotional, like that scene, like waterworks.
Yeah.
Waterworks every time without fail.
Yeah.
That end scene where Sisko picks up the canister, the injection module after older Jake there, did that the night before and then passes. Can't handle it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think one of the most poignant things about the way this episode ended is that Captain Sisko remembers that. Like it didn't just get erased, that it never happened, everything just goes back to normal. He actually remembers,
Right.
Seeing Jake grow up and get married and write books. And then he comes back to where he was with that memory intact. And I think that's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jake doesn't remember it at all. Like it's done. He's moving on. He's happy-go-lucky. He doesn't have to deal with all that
enough
pain.
to deal with. Good.
Yeah, but now Captain Sisko's like, geez, man, I'm going to make sure you follow your writing career. You're not throwing your life away like I just saw you do.
Yeah. I did have one question when I was watching it. When Tony Todd gets sucked into the space of the timeless space where Sisko is that white space, it made me think, how long is Sisko in that white space? What does he do when he's there?
I totally thought that too.
Yeah.
Did you guys think that?
Basically,
Did you just walk around the white space and wait for the next time shift jump?
Right. Is he just sitting there waiting for years and years and years? Or is it just like in the blink of an eye, every time he pops back in, 15 years have gone by?
Yeah, no, I think it's
For his
that,
sake, I'd hope
because
it'd be a
think it's-
stasis.
Yeah.
I think it's, and they kind of, Jake kind of asks his dad where he goes. And Sisko's like, well, I don't know. So it's kind of like he stood still in time. He's trapped in time, but it's almost like he's asleep, but not dreaming. Or like when you're put out for surgery, you lose that time, but time isn't moving for him. So he's popping in and out of these moments. And when he's in the physical plane, that's when he's experiencing anything.
Yeah, I would feel like his answer would be. I think you're right. Because I would feel like his answer to "Where are you at?" would be different than I don't know, because he doesn't seem that disturbed. And I feel like if he did have to spend like years and years there with nothing around, he would be really ticked. He'd be like, "Oh, this is an awful place. Please leave." Man,
He'd have a long beard too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't age. I think they did say that he was outside of time, is how they described it.
Like, why didn't the prophets intervene? Why did Jake have to do all the work?
Prophets don't care.
Well, maybe because
he was still alive, so
maybe it was a lesson.
Maybe they just knew it was going to get fixed.
Yeah.
Also, nowhere near Bejor. It's on Earth.
Right.
Right. It was on the other side. Yeah, it was on the other side of the wormhole.
Long distance call.
But I did have that thought too, like, why not just fly into the wormhole or open one of those orb boxes and ask for help?
Hey, prophets.
Just open the box. Hey, is anybody in here? Hey, so
about time distortion.
The Starfleet people thought of them as wormhole aliens. They didn't think of them as the prophets, so they wouldn't turn to them for the answers.
Right. Okay, so we're on a bit of a time crunch here, so we're going to do a rapid fire question, guys. Here we go. Put on your thinking caps. It's go time. John gets comfortable. TJ adjusts his hat. We're ready. All right. So the question is, we thought it was really cool and really beautiful that Jake and Nog were revealed to be friends forever in this episode. We see little snippets of their lives, and they're friends forever, very good friends. They trust each other. They love each other. And the question is, in the Star Trek universe, besides Jake and Nog, which characters do you think would be best friends forever? Or which characters do you think we've seen them be best friends forever, and you think they're a good example of that? I know it's a toughie. Rex A. Wood is not here right now. Otherwise, he would say Kirk and Spock. But that's my guess.
Yeah, Homer was going to take that one too.
we always take Homer's. Melissa, let's start with you.
Okay. I thought Julian and O'Brien.
Nice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Dart game.
Dart game.
Darts. Homer, do you have a second choice?
I do. Or actually now it's a third choice. But I'm going to go with Trip and Archer.
Nice.
Oh, Trip! I finished.
Okay. Spoilers.
No spoilers.
I finished.
No spoilers.
Okay, Sue. Sue.
You want me to go next?
It's not up to me. No. I'm just saying, hey, that's enough about that.
He's like, no spoilers.
Let's get back to it. The question at hand.
All right.
Homer's got the blinders on.
Katie, do you have one?
I would say Janeway and 7 of 9, or 7 of 9 and the Doctor, because they both had really good bonds. And then if Jadzia wouldn't have, I would have said Jadzia and Kira, because I love their friendship.
That's funny. I had a guess that you were going to say Janeway and 7. We've gotten a couple hints that you like Janeway. That's your favorite captain, right?
Yeah, she is. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Is Voyager your favorite series?
Voyager's my favorite, and then Janeway's my favorite captain, and then after that, it's immediately Sisko and DS9.
Okay. TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri.
Yeah. I'm going to follow in Katie's footsteps and say Tom Paris and Harry Kim.
Yep.
No one else is friends with Harry.
Solid.
I'm going to emphasize Ensign Harry Kim.
So he'll still be an ensign. Captain Nog over there in the corner.
Captain Nog forever and Ensign Kim forever.
Dr. Anne Marie Segal out in Midtown, whatever that means.
I was gonna say Geordi and Data, but it's hard to say that now because Picard, like Geordi, wasn't in season 1. But I'll just pretend we didn't see him, but they were still friends, and Geordi was still thinking about him.
We love Geordi. John Tufarella out in Candor, New York.
I'm gonna go with the secondary because Bashir O'Brien would have been first, but let's go Martok and Worf.
Nice.
Ooh.
All right.
Nice.
That's where he goes like, I assure you, I am not one of them.
Well, they're like sort of related now.
No, that was Gowron. That was
You're
Gowron
right.
that said that.
Just pretend I said Gowron or something. I can't do a Martok impression.
Yes.
Oh, come on. Sure you can.
Just work on it.
It's in there somewhere.
Growl.
No.
You gotta practice.
I just like to thank you guys all for not saying you also can't do a Martok or a Gowron impression either, obviously. Sue, do you have a duo?
I do. It's already been said, but definitely Data and Geordi.
Mm-hmm.
So cute together.
They are. Titus?
Well, Melissa said the first one I was thinking about, which was Bashir and O'Brien. And then John said the other one I was thinking about, which is Martok and Worf. But I think it was Ronald D. Moore who said that a lot of the writers on DS9 felt like one of the themes was male bonding of the show. There's a lot of male friends on the show, and so there's a lot of different pairings to choose from. I'll choose one that's a little outside of the convention of those terms, but still fits because of Curzon, and that would be Sisko and Dax.
Literally.
Wow, yes.
Oh,
Very
man.
good one.
Yeah.
Such a good one.
That was good, yeah.
Very good.
Cirroc, do you want to throw another one into the hat? Or do you want to pick a winner?
No, neither one. I've already got mine. Mine's been excluded from the mix, but yes.
Homer's got an honorable mention
that's
he
a
wants
great
to throw in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw.
So I think Bashir and Garrick.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I thought so.
I mean, these
Definitely.
all of these are great answers, and I think that speaks to the writing on the show and the character development, and that we care about the characters and also the relationships that they have formed. But they're all great.
Even though they wouldn't admit it, on screen.
no way.
Renee and Armin, Odo and Quark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They would keep in contact.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Say that, but like, how's Odo going to talk from the Great Link?
He'll
Come up
he'll morph into a phone.
bubble up from every now and then.
Morph into a phone. They probably have subspace, right? Or sub communicators or something.
Yeah, they gotta keep tabs on the Jem'Hadar and all of that.
Well, I think somewhere in like the literary world, the Minion actually becomes part of the Federation, and Odo comes back.
I do have one. I have one. It's Quark and Morn.
Nice.
That's great.
They're walking a very
That's based off Latinum, though.
Yeah, it's financially.
You gotta keep that bar tab paid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Keep drinking. We're friends.
They're locked in a
We,
very relationship defined by Latinum.
Well, they mentioned Quark and Morn in this episode. They said Quark got a moon. Ron's running. Yeah, and that Morn is on DS9. He took over
The bar.
And renamed it. Yeah.
And that he's talking all of his customers' ears off and drinking up.
Yeah, talking to the ears off. Sure.
Speaking of renaming bars, so on the Aaron Eisenberg, our bar or our 10 forward area is Nogs.
Nice.
And Armin is our honorary ship bartender.
That's so cool.
So our Armin has accepted the spot as our ship bartender.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's a
happy
big deal.
birthday to Armin.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday to him. By the time
And
this
his
comes
book.
out,
Booker
it'll
got
be
some
late.
good acknowledgement from that
I
earlier.
know.
We just
Over
dated
there.
this episode.
All
We gotta
right,
think
when this
ahead on these
episode
things.
comes
We
out,
should've
we
said
should
this 3 weeks ago.
we should know who the president is when this comes out.
What's up?
I mean, there may be some legal
Is that you,
stuff
Katie?
still going on.
So on that very positive
Wait,
note,
Ryan, did you say your favorite?
no,
Yeah.
I didn't. But we're out of time. Otherwise, I totally
oh,
would.
okay, okay.
How about Eric's and Maress?
Oh my goodness.
Well, the good ones were taken. Well, I was actually going to say.
Well, that is also a good one, and it's a credit to the writing.
I was going to say, actually, if they hadn't died, spoilers, Ducat and Wayoon. I
knew
want
you were
those
gonna
guys
say
to
that.
be friends forever. Anyway, we do have to run, but thank you all very much for joining us. And everybody at home, thank you for joining us. Very special thanks to Melissa Longo, Sue Gruner, Titus Mohler, TJ Jackson-Bey, Homer Frizzell, Katie Carr, and Marie Segal, Cirroc Lofton that we can barely see because it's nighttime over here.
I know, it's getting dark.
Commander John
You're in the
Tufarella. Thank you all very much, and always remember the 7th rule.